In this video, I'm going to be discussing a few obvious issues that I see a lot of times in Google Ads accounts, specifically in the conversion actions tracking section. This isn't a complete rundown of every single issue I've ever seen, just in this one account, some of the issues that I've seen pop up repeatedly in other accounts that I've also audited. So, one thing right off the bat that a lot of people do is when they're tracking phone calls, they typically just set this for 30 seconds. And this is not a one size fits all approach. There are some businesses where this does work, and any client that stays on the phone for longer than 30 seconds is typically going to become a customer. Think really like emergency type situations like towing. That's one business that I've worked on recently where if somebody's on the phone for longer than 30 seconds, they're pretty much ready. They're pretty much sold. You're going to come and help them. But most other businesses, I don't see often utilizing the call length under 60 seconds because it does take a lot longer than you would typically think to actually close a deal on the phone, regardless of what service it is that you provide. So being sure to talk either if you're the business owner yourself, getting into the data and actually finding out how long are the phone calls that you're typically on, how long do they last when somebody becomes a client versus how long are you able to basically hang up on the person before you realize that they are not qualified. So setting the lowest possible mark for a call length while still preventing calls from being counted as conversions that are too short to ever have turned into conversions is going to be extremely beneficial in improving the overall quality of conversions into your account. Another thing that you will want to do with the conversion tracking inside the actual settings right here is making sure that you have the count set to 1 if you were going after leads. If it's for purchases, choosing every is perfect. Otherwise, it should be set to 1 because if you're just looking for leads, for example, if you're a lawn care business and somebody calls in 3 different times, that's not 3 different clients for you, that's 1 client. And you don't want Google thinking it got you 3 different conversions. So making sure this is set to 1 is always going to be extremely beneficial. Another thing that I see a lot of marketers do is set this window really large, and I do not recommend doing this for most businesses. If you have a really long sales cycle, for example, I'm working with a reverse mortgage business right now, and their sales cycle can be 90 days plus. So in that case, we do want to actually track the click-through rate or the click-through conversion window of 60 days or 90 days, however long our typical sales cycle is. However, if you are we'll use the lawn care example again. If somebody's looking for you to mow their lawn, they're not typically clicking on your ad and then waiting 2 months and then finally calling you and converting because your ad convinced them to. They probably came back and found you some other way if it's not directly attributed to Google Ads. So I would definitely recommend setting the click-through conversion window to something more realistic. Something that more aligns with the amount of time it typically takes for the conversion action to happen from when the customer actually reaches out to you. So, for example, if you're counting a conversion action as closed deals and it takes 30 days to close a deal, you should probably set the click-through conversion window to 45 days to kind of give that extra room for Google to actually count it as a conversion and attribute it to the click that happened 45 days ago. But if you're just tracking a conversion as somebody calling in to your business, you should probably set it to something closer to 14 days. That's going to help you attribute conversions more accurately to Google Ads without over-attributing every single click that happens on Google Ads and making Google think it's getting you conversions when really somebody calling in 2 months later isn't particularly valuable to you. Another thing I often see is people tracking the exact same conversion as a primary conversion twice. And so that basically tells Google, hey, I got you 2 conversions, whereas where they actually only got you 1 conversion. So this will screw up your cost per conversion metrics. It will also screw up your optimization if you're optimizing for multiple different conversion actions. So making sure that you are only tracking 1 of each type of conversion is going to be extremely helpful because it will allow you to have more quality data. I also highly recommend doing it straight through Google Ads and not doing it through Google Analytics because Google Analytics, essentially, you're having to send it from your website to Google Analytics to Google Ads, and some of the attribution can get a little bit mixed up there, and it won't be as accurate as it would be if it went from your website directly to Google, and you do that through Google Tag Manager. So definitely recommend that in order to get your ads account the best possible data. Like I said, this doesn't really cover every single issue that I've ever encountered, but these are some really quick things that you can go and look at your Google Ads account and clean up pretty immediately. So hope this video helps, and I will see you in the next one.